Hey there, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show with Sasha and Ish. Alright, welcome to Not So Breakfast Show today, and this is the one where we get to talk to our good friend Emma Barry. She is a leadership expert, a global fitness authority, and the chief creative soul at Good Soul Hunting, and an international woman of mystery as well. And we are going to unpack some, I'm going to say shit today, because I can imagine there will be some swear words drifting over the sweet airways as we get to talk to Emma. But maybe before we get to Emma, Sasha, whereabouts are you today?
I'm in Otautahi, Christchurch, huddled in this little office away from Auckland. Guys, Ish has been flooded. Auckland is like having biblical floods. So our heart is with him. But we weren't going to stop recording. We're like, no, man, what would the tough do? The tough would get going. He has swum through the shark-infested waters to make it to a studio. In fact, about an hour ago, Ish had no power. So big snaps to you, Ishy. Good thing that Ishy rhymes with fishy. You'll be good in the water. And I am so excited to be talking with our good friend and global fitness authority legend, Emma Barry. And may I begin by saying, Em, last time we caught up was in Los Angeles. Yeah, hi. Kick us off, man. Kiwi girl from Hawke's Bay, and now you've ended up just living the life in Los Angeles. Tell us about that.
Fantastic question, and what a way to start. Well, look, Los Angeles is midway between London and the Bay, which is pretty much, so I was born in London, so I blame my parents, to be honest, because I think when you're born offshore, you sort of have this inherent need to perhaps go back to your hometown or travel a little bit. So, always loved the adventure. Brought up as a Kiwi, so I was one when we moved from London, just long enough to get the passport, which I've just passed off to the kids as well, which they're very excited about. So glad I could finally come in handy as a parent. And brought up in the Bay. Went to Otago, as so many of us did. All the good people went to Otago. Where did you go, Ish?
I tell you what, it wasn't Otago, but I went to Nelson, which is kind of like, well, it's nothing. It's nothing like Otago.
Oh, that's great. So you're born and bred bred Kiwi, and then moved to Los Angeles 9 years ago on a green card that we won, which actually exists and people do win them, and here we are 9 years later wondering what the hell with the rain, we're really happy to be here right now.
Yeah, give us a ring in your drought. We've got some spare water.
Is it really a thing? Can you win a green card?
Yeah,
you can win a green card. They open up it used to be when I applied a long time ago. I actually applied 7 years before we actually got it. We'd lived here in 2005 as part of Les Mills, came over, took over the distributorship back into the US. So it was about a team of 20 of us living in Southern California. We loved it. Said to Lee, I'm just going to put this in. Some middle person keeps applying every year. And then one day I got this very annoying American woman saying, you've won a green card. And I thought, this is, a sham, a scam, whatever. And it turned out to be so. So here we are. You do 3 inches of paperwork. There's about 50,000 of them, I think, they give out, but there must only be about 10 that make their way through the English degree that you need in order to get that paperwork filed. But here we are.
Amazing. And we know you from your history. We met through the fitness industry. You are just the queen of Body Pump, took Body Pump to the world, and then went on and did so many other amazing things. And you've carved out this freelance kind of career for yourself that people are in admiration of. Can you tell us about how you decided to kind of stop working in the machine? Because lots of people listening to this podcast, which we said earlier, is mainly my mum and a few others. Yeah, lots of people are they wrestle with, do I keep working in an organization? Do I get a side hustle? Do I do something for myself? Yeah, how do you make that transition from being part of such a big machine and such an influential organization and say, I've got the ball to do something on my own?
Bloody hard, babe. It's something that's in you. I think you're always dealing with pleasure and pain, right? You're dealing with, and you have to say there's joys in both and all and everything in between. Like, to be honest, you've just got to know yourself. it is hard yakka doing both, and you just have to line up what is more important to you at the time. I had an absolute ball, learned so much stuff, probably had about 25 years at Les Mills on the club side, international, working offshore through a variety of roles as the business grew. And then I also got to work for Equinox as well, another big corporate over here, very well known, great brand here in the United States. There are so many advantages to working in a behemoth like each of those organizations. The support, the people, the level of production, the growth that you're in, the people you're working alongside, the systems that are in place, the money that's thrown at stuff. So I never want to downgrade working for other people, because I think as long as you can do what you're really good at and you love what you do within an organization like that, and you both know this, it's hard yakka going out on your own. All of a sudden, no one's giving you benefits. No one's giving you holidays and time off. And, would you like, $10,000 to throw towards your personal development? Yes, I would. All of these things. It sounds great. And it's very, very competitive. And there's a lot of things out there, and there's a lot of people. And especially having gone through the pandemic, where everyone was kind of forced into some sort of entrepreneurship. So I think there's ways that you can exist in both. For me, it got to a point where I just wanted to try some other things. I have a huge part of my DNA is adventure. It's my number one value is journeying and adventure. And I think things really shifted for me once I had children, and my role was more corporate and less travel. It's quite easy when you're bouncing around the world as a single international master trainer, sort of 2 days here and then 2 days in France, 2 days. And it's all very luxurious and exciting. And then when you have a family, it's a different vibe. And then when I had a family stuck in New Zealand with less children, that started getting painful for me. And that's my story. So I wanted to try some other things. So when this came along, it's like, okay, we're only going to do it if one of us can have a job. Neither of us got a job. So we said, okay, we're not going. And then when we made that decision not to go, I couldn't live with myself. We went on holiday. I couldn't sleep. The Auckland Bridge came closer as we went back after holidays, and I had a visceral reaction. And that was basically, we got to go, because the pain to stay for me and who I am is greater than the pain of going.
I love what you're saying so much, because I think it's particularly powerful for women to express that and for that to be allowed. Because the normal story, it's slowly changing, but the normal story is man has career goals, wifey looks after the kids, and off they go to the Middle East to grow his career, right? And the courage that it takes to say, actually, I want more than this. I don't want this to just be my existence, and to be brave enough to put it out there, to listen to yourself and to build the family around you where, when Lee says, okay, babe, let's do it. That's what we're doing.
And let's just give a shout out to Lee, because I'm very fortunate to live the life of my dreams because of him, and he was happy to support our family in that. It is not easy changing countries. And I remember I was given advice at the time, it won't take a year, it'll take at least 3 for you to even feel like you're beginning to understand what you've stepped into. And I would say that is true on this side of it now.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-minute presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-minute presenter program.
Yeah, wow. So what were some of the biggest challenges that you face when you move countries and cultures, geographies? Like, how do you navigate that change? Because I wonder some of those things might be true on a smaller scale every time you move somewhere, like you change a job or you change a relationship, but you've really it's on steroids when you take your family to a new country.
Yeah, so I'd say at the micro level, if you change house, for example, it's going to cost you 10 grand. You're going to turn off all the lights and all the things. You're going to go, you're going to find that the couch doesn't fit. There's going to be some disaster. Someone's going to smash a vase, all of that stuff. So that's sort of the magnitude of it. And you've just got to get used to the new district or the suburb that you're living in. when you change country, like if you go to Australia, so I lived in Australia, I had an apartment in Australia for a bunch of time. That to me wasn't too different. I think Aussies and, we're only 2.5, 3 hours apart. We're kind of similar. There's more Kiwis living in Australia than there probably are Australians living in Australia. So you feel quite at home. You know what rugby league is, so there's enough.
Rugby league.
Rugby league. So there's enough transfer there where this newness, and it always comes down to, what are the basics? Where are we living? What's, all of those things. And if you're looking after yourself, that's also very different to looking after a family. So when we decided to move over here, and it was a 5-week decision, right? Because in that period, the window was closing where we had to have moved within a year, right? So we got the paperwork in. Long story, not going to bore you with that, but Rachel Newsham had a part to play in that. 2 days out from putting in our application, they told me that my UK passport and birth certificate was not an original, and therefore they couldn't process the whole thing. So what do? I ring up the passport office. I'm like, oh my God, you have got to do me a solid here. I'm working with Les Mills. Les Mills, you don't know Rachel Newsham, do you? I went, yes, I do. She said, I'm going to walk this down to DHL and we're going to get this to you. We're going to send it straight to the people and you're going to get through. So within 2 hours, we got this thing, and thank you, Rachel. So Rachel's actually the reason that we're living in the United States. So back to the question. When you move, first of all, we've got 5 people in our family. And all of the kids were at a different age. So the first thing was they're all going to a different school. One's going to elementary, not primary. One's going to middle, and there's 3 years in there, not 2. And one's going to high school. So we had to find, and we knew that we didn't want to go into private school because there was going to be, if they got that far through, you'd be paying for college all the way. So we couldn't afford to do that as well. So then you go on these little apps and you go, right, where's the school? Where are schools that are 10s, in the US system? And it either came down to Malibu or Redondo Beach because we decided we wanted to live near the beach. Wild horses couldn't lead us to Baltimore, which was where one of the job opportunities was. And Lee said, we're going to the city, I'm not living in Baltimore. So it was California all the way. So we found these areas, we couldn't afford Malibu and it was too far from everywhere. So we started in Manhattan Beach. We thought, oh, great, we'll start in Manhattan Beach. And then we kept going south until we could afford it. Now, when you move to the United States, they go, you've got a green card. But that is the beginning of the pain. You can't get into a school until you're zoned. You can't be zoned until you get a house. You can't get a house until you can prove that you have credit. You have no credit because you've come from another country. So every single thing we had to pay for, I had to pay a deposit on top of it. So instead of a month's rent, you had to pay 3 months' rent in advance. Every time you went to get a utility turned on, you had to do a deposit because you were high risk. And when they say credit, they mean you're in debt.
Yeah, that's how you get a credit score, right? Is you owe someone money.
You owe someone money, as in you've got 10 cards, they're stacked to here, your credit rating's here, but you've got a lot of debt and you're able to pay it off. So that's how you get judged over here. Now, you can't get your license until you have Social Security. You can't get your Social Security until you have the proof that you're allowed to be there, in our case, the green card. So you can only do one thing at a time. Now, in Los Angeles, people, it laughs, and you'll laugh, Sasha, because you came over and stayed with me, but people come, they go, well, we're going to go to Disneyland in the morning, then we're going to go over to Rodeo Drive, then we're going to drive up and we're going to see the Get. And I'm like, stop, wait a minute. You're going to get half of those things done in one day, like just one thing, one day, maybe 2 things, and that's if the 405, which is the big motorway here, is behaving. So that's the first thing you learn about Los Angeles, is that you're not going to treat it like, Auckland or anywhere, where you can get around easily. The public transport sucks, and LA is a horrible city until you live here. Like, my parents hate it, and I get it. It's like a big empty car park or something, and people are driving around. But when you live here, you realize there's lots of little communities. It's just painful getting from one to the next.
It seems to be like so spaced out, like, because every time I guess I've gone to the US, and we went to Houston for a conference over there, and it's like you're in a building that you're staying in, the hotel, and then the building that you need to get to is like down the road, but it's like freaking miles away. So then it's like taxis and everything, like everything is so spaced out because there is so many. But then the opposite, I guess, was in New York, where it felt like everything was just on top of you.
That's exactly right. And those two coasts are so opposed, like they're so different in so many ways, from space to weather to, you know, what they think about each other. But you'll find a lot of the people who can afford it are bi-coastal. They love the lifestyle of LA, but they love the vibe of New York.
Okay, that's me, because I love women so much. I would love to be bisexual, but I'm not.
How did we end up here?
Because I could be bi-coastal.
Bi-coastal.
I could be bi-coastal. That's me. I'm going to move from Raglan to Tauranga and be, because everything that you're saying, just what it does to my brain is it says, oh no, life in Hamilton's pretty good. I quite like Hamilton. It's easy to get around, and because you're kind of describing all of the challenge, and that's without even kind of setting up your brand and this is just getting life to work. So it must take, I mean, you must have learned a hell of a lot about yourself in that process over time as you've kind of become immersed in that culture and immersed in the business community, the global business community. What are some of your kind of key learnings? I mean, would you do anything differently?
I mean, yeah, I think about that, and the one thing that does pop up, and I still don't think I would have done it, but I remember when my father said, "Oh, the one regret we had about moving to London when they had me, he was a doctor and he went to do postgrad work over there, and he said, I wish I had taken the advice and the loan from a neighbour who was in banking to actually buy the property that we were in, because we ended up staying there 5 years. So we ended up paying rent, going home with nothing, being dead broke, and not even going back from London. Everyone usually goes back for money, but back in the day, the doctors were just working for not much money, stupid long hours in order to get qualified into their specialty, which in his case was paediatrics. So that was one thing. Now, we've lived in the same place for 9 years, and I look back and I think, because we sold our house in New Zealand, should we have put it into here? Because we did have that option right at the beginning, but we didn't know enough about it. And the building here is not to the quality. I shouldn't really be saying that in leaky house syndrome in Auckland right now, but you look around and you go, shit, this took 2 weeks to build. How good could it be? So you don't really want to put money into it. But then we've lived here for 9 years. But every year we've thought we might move, or we might go to another state, something like that. So it's brought us freedom, and that's probably one of the things that, again, I value very highly, is the ability to be me, the ability to be free, not to be sort of restricted by big things. So
I don't want to be restricted by assets. I like that. That's amazing framing.
It is. I don't have any assets. Well, I do have some assets, but I don't have as many assets I probably should. So there is a downside to that as well.
Although I would say that one of your assets is your brand and your reputation. Like, it just seems to be every transition from business to business or company to company has seemed to have been a positive one, at least from the outside. Like, I've seen people leave businesses after being in it for a long time, basically thinking that that business owes them everything. I gave my life to this place. But I have always seen you kind of swap careers and reinvent yourself, and the brand of Emma Barry has just become stronger and stronger. And I guess I really saw it come to life during the COVID lockdowns, when you would do your badass bullet rants and just see you go at it, and just watch my Instagram blow up with, you know, people that were just loving that.
Yeah, so, and, you know, it's interesting because COVID was interesting, because I was in a really dark place, to be honest, then, because COVID hit 2020. By May, I'd lost all my work. I was 80% working in Europe. You know, I was a consultant, which was the worst place to be. You were first off at that point. So I literally woke up one morning and thought, I have no work. You know, if this doesn't turn around quickly, we will be calling my father and getting a one-way trip back to New Zealand. And, you know, we did think about that for a hot minute. And then it was like, oh, fuck it, just stay here and just start processing what you're going through. And then I just got into these I just decided for some reason I'll just start doing it every day. You're both in the content game. You know how much time it can take to put together 20 minutes of something that might be slightly funny, pulling down all the stuff that's happening. But this was exactly why I moved here. I wanted to be in a big, messy pond rather than a smaller pond that I kind of knew where the sides were. So I was just in process. And the fact that it was a bit humorous for some people was really good. And then I kind of got into the role of that, and it was sort of keeping me busy, because the alternative was not pretty. It was like, sit there in your shit. You can't go anywhere. Everyone's depressed. No one's got money. You have no idea what's happening tomorrow. And people were genuinely in fear. And we sit in, because we live on the coast, so there's a lot of people going, there is no pandemic, I'm going to the beach. And then you've got the other half that are it's very draconian and very locked down. Kids didn't go to school for a year and a half. Like, it was a lot, So I was just processing, and it was bringing me joy. It was bringing me joy that I was somehow connected to these people, and we'd be laughing about stuff. And, I was saying all sorts of things. I probably should have been shot. I mean, this is the country where you get shot for saying stuff like that.
No, it was amazing because you had quite a few followers on Instagram at that point.
15,000, and then I got hacked. It was just one of those, you got phished. Oh, it's Instagram here. And I should have picked it up because I even saw the spelling mistake. So I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I didn't go, that's not Instagram. They wouldn't have a spelling mistake. Put in your details. They double authenticate you out and you're screwed. So, I reached out to a bunch of people to try and help. I had people on Instagram, all the rest of it. And I don't know, someone's shot. I might still get it back, but it was kind of like, you know what? This has happened for a reason. I'm just going to reinvent again. And then we kind of stepped into the executive search brand. So me, swearing like a motherfucking truck is probably not the best look for that. But having said that, I'm kind of like, you know what? Why not? That's kind of where I'm at right now. I just think I don't even know where the middle is anymore. I don't know where the line is, and I don't even know how I feel about that because, we don't even know what gender we are today. We don't know what's right, what's wrong, what's up, what's down. But I'm okay with that because I do quite enjoy change. But I think something that's structureless for too long, I think, is just going to allow powers to be to come in and put new rules that we might not like around that. So I'm definitely flying with the ether right now, but I'm pretty quick to grab onto things. And even if it's a really small thing, and Sasha knows this about me, jumping on and doing free shout outs is better to me than doing nothing. Taking a little consultancy or advising someone or taking a call from someone always makes me feel better than sitting there in your stew, just not doing anything. And I think there's something in making something. Like, people talk about my brand. I mean, trust me, don't believe the gram, there's a lot of chaos going on behind that. But make something of the little moments, because you turn yourself around as well as the person that you helped,
What really sticks out for me from what you're saying is, right at the start when you talk about what your most important values are, they are adventure and the freedom to be who you are in the full expression of that. And I think one of the things that, and I've wrestled with this too, you move into a consulting space or you want to do a keynote or you start doing this kind of stuff. And I remember Matt Church saying to me years ago, you are really quote unquote successful and popular when you speak for Les Mills, but it's a particular audience and you know how to sanitize and corporatize your message, don't you? And I said, yeah, no worries, of course. I just don't swear. And it wasn't until I did my first corporate gig that I realized how much of my brand was off color. Because when I was in that corporate space, I'd go to make a joke and I'd go, oh, that's slightly sexual. We don't do that in corporate. And I'd go, oh, that's slightly off. And suddenly I was sort of stripped back into being, actually, I don't have anything to say that's vanilla. That actually the only jokes I know are a bit off. And so I had to work really hard. Two things to do. One is to say, am I prepared to clean myself up? Is there a part of me that can still be authentic and available to that market? Or do I just go, no, fuck it. Those aren't my people. And you wrestle with that. There's a bit more money and a bit more work and a bit more commercial out here. But even as I say that, the brands that are the most compelling are the ones that are the most authentic. I think there's enough to go around. I mean, have you resolved that within yourself?
Yes, I have resolved it. I think, we are required to be contextual, and I've got myself into a lot of trouble in various situations as well. Like, there's been a couple of jokes, poorly placed jokes on audiences that didn't know me, just by one or two people. So I've had a bit of stuff in my face. That happened a couple of times last year. Doesn't happen too much. Usually I'm pretty authentic and people know me, and they actually know that I truly am there for the right reasons. It's not to get cheap laughs. You are there helping people. And I think the more that you help people, the more that you can be you, and then you get chosen for things that are appropriate. But yes, I have grades of how far I will go. I mean, the fuck word kind of comes out in most situations, but anything worse than that would be a little bit more guarded. So yeah, I think I've resolved that. And then I still think you can be a good soul who occasionally has a bit of a potty mouth. I think that's different than being an asshole who's just going to do it for the money. I think there's a way like that I am, that things sort of shape around me a little bit. But you do, you have to be, I have to be respectful, and I have to that sometimes if people don't know me, I can easily overstep that. Because that's another thing I learned moving to the US. Just because you speak English, it actually fools you into thinking you're closer culturally than you are, and you're not. I would say I have more in common with Brazilians and half the Europeans than I do with a lot of Americans, which is something that you don't realize until you get here. And say my humor wasn't landing, or I offended someone accidentally, or they just don't understand what I'm talking about.
That's certainly been, and it's been a while since I've mentioned it, but my Harvard experience, you get all these internationals and everybody has to have the standard of English.
Right? At least 5 minutes.
It's been like half an hour already, but it's so that. And I think when you take, for people like you who are so effervescent, so full of life, when you take the humour away, and as you'll know this from when you speak in front of an audience and you tell the same joke that you've told to the last 5 audiences and no one laughs, and you become the stand-up comedian that starts bagging the audience, you become this person that goes, what's wrong with you guys? Because I'm really funny, because the last 5 audiences really laughed. And there's this whole kind of reevaluation of who you are. I mean, I think, we talk about the brands in terms of, whether you're, potty mouth or the language, but that's like the outworking of the particular expression. And the expression is of wanting to sort of challenge the status quo, or not accepting the role that society or that industry might have for you. And I know that one of the things that you are so good at is that kind of seeing into the future, or making sense of some of the macro trends that are out there, and not being prepared to just accept the status quo. So I'd be fascinated for you to share some of your insights on what you are seeing, maybe in fitness, not necessarily in fitness, just in the, what's ahead for us with your futurist mindset. What can you tell us that'll help us prepare for what's coming? I mean, what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, it won't be any surprise to you. I think the world is accelerating, and I think we're seeing that in climate, we're seeing that in technology, all of the things, right? All the businesses are in some way accelerating. And I think, with Chat GPT, we haven't had a bigger moment, tech hysteria since I think music probably came onto our phones. I really think it's that big. And that has just sent the world into a spin. I looked at that and I thought I could just see a whole lot of jobs evaporating. Content, average copywriters, people doing desk research, like the whole, and that's only the beginning. That's before it even gets customized by speciality. So I think the world is accelerating. So what I find helps me, and none of this is a surprise to me. I've seen this coming for the last 5 years because I go to those shows too. I like it in my face so I can get ready for it and be more prepared. So where things are accelerating, get quicker at accepting what's going to happen and get on to what you now need to become to get ahead of it. So, what I mean by that, the fitness industry is notoriously slow. It's why I spend so much time researching other areas like retail. I mean, retail moves very fast. If you look what's in the metaverse, the way that they use AR, one touch purchasing, all of that stuff. Like, you look at other industries, you look at the transport. I mean, the number one industry here in the US, which you don't get great optics on, of course, is the military. I went to the Consumer Electronics Show and I'm just sitting there going, whatever I'm looking at now, the military's had for 10 years. Like, that's the reality. So if you're getting, look at the movies, I mean that seriously. Minority Report, Matrix, all of those movies. I mean, I hate to say it, but the show I went to a few weeks ago, that was all there. So this is not made up stuff. It's stuff that's being forecast that is coming. So if they've made up a story, it exists somewhere, right? This whole digital twins, robots everywhere, everything that you can do, injectable chips.
Waterworld?
Yeah, Waterworld.
Oh, hey, too soon, team. Too soon.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ash.
So acceleration, I would say, so get on that. So, okay, chat's here, right? OpenAI's here, generative AI, the ability for machine learning. And, everyone had a little play on there. If they didn't, they should have. Don't be in fear of it. Lean into it. See what it can do. See how it can speed up your life, and then work out what you now need to be. So now I'm going, you know what I've already done? I was on Chat this morning. I've done all my marketing for next week. It's not beautiful, really flowery language that I would like, but it's a great base.
Yeah.
Do me the trend reports on this, do this, and it's a little bit retrospective. They locked it off in 21. The point is, it does very structured thinking for you, has an intro, 3 bullet points, and then close out. You can then go in, add your magic. So lean into accelerating things and then work out what I need. I want to spend more time learning, working out better questions to ask it so that I can step and spend more time in front of people. Like that's how I've taken that, for example. So that's one thing. Personalization. So there's no reason that you can't really set up a life for yourself that you absolutely adore. You take out all the frictiony things. And we see that a lot here in the US. Like, people are very selfish and self-sufficient, and they, your whole life can get lined up. So I look at our kids, and they're just so tech savvy. They can pull things, and they don't worry with this and they don't worry with that. And then just absolutely create a life that you really love. Work out the friction points. Now, this doesn't mean taking out the struggle. I believe in struggle. I think we all need to have struggle, and we need to have stress in our lives, but the right stress, right? The stress of solving a challenge or getting through a tough part or something like that, but not when your everyday systems are not clean and helping propel you forward. So I think we're in a time where, whether you lean into technology, I'm a little bit funny. I don't like the thought of a smart house. I don't really like the thought that I'm being watched and recorded and listened to and stuff pushed to my phone. I don't love that. And I am a little bit with Elon on this. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, and I think technology is capable of way more than we are giving it credit for. I think it is scary good, because if you think about it, I'm an algorithm, you're an algorithm, you're an algorithm. We happen to have this emotional layer that makes us random sometimes, depending on what state we're in. I like to hold on to some of the human moments and then lean into technology, but not so much where it takes away what I consider my decision making or me curating my life. Now, I might be living under a big delusion, and Matrix would tell me that, but whatever, I'm going to enjoy it.
But the lean in thing, I think your point's so interesting around, when the open chat AI stuff came out, and Sasha introduced me to that. I hadn't even seen it. She said, get on this. And I'm like, holy shit, it's just changed my life. I rewrote all the copy and the website with it. And there's that mindset where you go, I will lean into, I want to see what it's like. But then you get the other people who are like, well, I'm not going anywhere near that at all. And as technology moves, it's going to be easy to get left behind if you haven't actually had some sort of touch point with where things are going.
Yeah, absolutely. And even the school's reaction, I think, is interesting. I get it. It's early days. We don't really understand it. But all the schools are now banning it. I mean, it's like banning a calculator and saying, still do long division in a world that's never going to ask you to do long division. And so I know it's early days, and I know, because they're all freaking out. They're going, oh shit, all the kids are going to have all days. And you can actually, I think the girl from Wall Street, Joanna, who does a great column, she basically said, I passed all the SAT tests based on this. So, they know. But see, this is the revolution of education. Do we really want our kids to be rote learning stuff from the past that was probably wrong in the first place? Or what's our next stop as human beings in terms of creativeness and decision making and problem solving and those things?
Yeah, I know there's a big discussion in churches at the moment with it, because you can write a worship song with an AI chatbot that's probably going to be better than what some churches are pumping out. And then you're kind of going, well, where's the heart in it?
Where's the channel? Where's the channel from above? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's such interesting times. Yeah.
Did you see the Ryan Reynolds thing? He got it to write an ad for him, put in a joke in my voice, blah de blah, and he just read it out, and he goes, terrifying. I mean, it was real good.
Brilliant.
What fascinates, there's two things that come out of this conversation for me. One is the idea of how much we kid ourselves. So I'm going to use the worship thing as an example, and I mean zero respect to religion here. I'm talking about songwriting. We kid ourselves that it's not formulaic in the first place, right? So that the band that does the 4-chord song, and it's just basically a whole raft of songs that all have exactly the same structure. And until you hear them play it, you go, oh, I thought those were all unique songs. So much of how we respond as humans is to patterns. We love pattern recognition. We love it when we can identify with something and make sense of it in a way based on what we already know. So I love this idea of business where we say, if you're a consultant or you want to build a personal brand, you've got to fit in. Tell me what category you're in so I can make sense of it. And then you have to stand out of that category. So I need to be able to grasp what you're trying to sell me and then tell me why I should pick you and not someone else. I think that's fascinating. The second thing is the paradox of acceleration. That the reason I want to accelerate my use of these tools, if you like, to curate my own life is to actually slow down, is to have more time to do the things I want to do and less time doing stupid stuff that I'm still doing. So I still shop nearly every day. I go to the grocery store, I drive around, I look for a park, I physically go into the store, and people are like, well, online shopping's been around for nearly 100 years now and you're still not doing it. And just the other day, I set up a couple of lists and felt amazing. But we're slow to do this stuff because we get stuck in, it's going to take a while to do my list, so I'll just keep doing what I've always done. The next iteration of that is when the supermarket just emails me and says, based on our data tracking you, here is the things that you need on your shopping list. Would you like us to order it for you? Once it gets to that level that I have even less work to do for it to help me, I'm sold. But it's because I want to spend more time playing the piano and more time lying in the sun that I want tech. I don't want to accelerate just to enable more working hours. Does that make sense?
Or when it turns up at your doorstep and the fridge has ordered it for you.
Yeah, there we go.
I saw you ran out of chocolate milk, Sash.
Yeah. That's why I'm fat.
And by the way, you walked past me naked the other day and I put that online.
I videoed you and we're not selling it as well as we thought. Next, Em, can you predict what the future's going to hold for you? Because you and I are both at the stage now, and actually, you too, we're all in the stage where our children, Em, your youngest is younger than our youngest, but we're just about all at the stage where our kids are about to have left home. I feel like the best half of my life is just about to start. I'm 50 now, I got 50 to come. Wicked. I mean, how are you handling those kind of transitions, children leaving?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We've really felt it. As the second one left the nest, we've got one left, and we've felt a lot more freedom. I mean, I know where I'm going. I would like to be geographically free is my end game, and I'm pretty much almost there now. I mean, once we get, the third child gone, they will be living their life. I would like to think that we're sort of bouncing between, New Zealand.
Polycoastal.
Yeah, polycoastal. Poly, like a good poly. So polycoastal, I mean, I'd like to do that and just be around for key things. I would like to be working. I don't like the idea. I've got my cousin and a few friends are talking about retirement. I'm like, I have to leave the room. I'm like, seriously? There's only so many teas and, massages and things you can go to. I'd just be bored shitless. Like, I love being engaged in something. Had a fascinating conversation with Vaughan Schwass this morning, and we're very similar in style. We did about 7 years together at Les Mills, and we were both saying we had recognised there's something that we don't enjoy. It's not just about the work, because everyone who's a consultant, and that's something that I'm not enjoying that much right now, because there's so much change. First of all, you're first off the bus, so you're in a very, very unstable work, and not to say that it's any safer being in a job, to be honest, these days either, but you're first off. And then second thing is, about 3 times in a row now, I've done what I think is really good work, come up with a really great plan that has not been executed. And I've sat there and gone, you know what? I'm really getting very little satisfaction from this. Putting up a plan that doesn't get executed is not fun. And so what I'm discovering now is that as I take on like NED roles and maybe take on consultancy, I kind of want to be in the execution engine a bit more, because otherwise you didn't shift a needle. You just wrote a nice paper and presented to a board or something, and they decided either not to do it, or a pandemic came along. So I've just been noticing that. And I'm also really noticing that I'm straddling the time. So while I spend a bit of my life in the future, I'm still very of the old school. Hard knocks, working hard, you feel guilty if you're not putting in a solid, all of that stuff. So I feel very not conflicted, just aware that I'm not scared of hard work. I don't want to sit there and contemplate the win. I want to do stuff, but I want to do stuff that's actually going to change for real. So that's something that's shifted. So what I'm looking for now is I will be geographically free. I could see myself entering some kind of role, whether it's a contract or a bit of a role, because I've sort of been bouncing around working in my garage for 3 years now, and that's all good and well. I feel connected with the world. I'm not sad. I have enough travel to be excited. Kids are great. We're there for them when they need us, and we're not there when they don't. And so that all feels good. But yeah, I'm just looking for something I can get my teeth into that has the execution. Enjoy the search agency because we really help people and it's very busy right now. Obviously, a lot of people have been laid off. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for in the next thing is just you want to matter, right? You want your work to matter.
Oh, God,
a lot to offer, like you've made all the mistakes, you've worked for all the companies and countries, you know your way around the world, and it's just put me to work, let's go.
I love that. And I wonder too if that ability to work, that straddling of the old world with the acceptance and excitement for the new, it actually becomes a competitive advantage because some of who we at our age are competing against is the young ones. And I'm all for the future being the young people, but the young people want to work half a day once a month. And so if we've got a drive to go, actually, we're going to get this project finished for you and execute, then I think that has real value.
I agree.
Yeah.
The old school.
Yeah. Amazing. Do you have any? I hate that we're coming to the end because I could just talk to you all day and filling up my tank of inspiration.
You did when you were here.
Yeah, true.
I put on about 3 when you were here. All we did was eat and drink wine and talk.
And we still didn't solve all the world's problems, only some of them. I'm fascinated to know when you look back and project forward, and it's so bloody cheesy, but it's really useful for people listening. What are your key kind of lessons? One of the things that you go, this is an eternal truth for you.
Right. So I've got a few thoughts here. One would be, first of all, in moving to the United States, the grass, and I love this, is my favorite all-time saying, is the grass isn't greener, it's fake. So, and I've got a T-shirt that's got it on there too. The American dream does not exist. So most people I know in Los Angeles have 3 jobs. One of those is driving an Uber. It is a hustle. There is very few people who actually have all the money, all the time, the relationship, everything lined up, happiness stretched. You do get the sense that even if people appear to have those things over here, and you see it in the news all the time, they don't, or they've had to sell their soul, or they're owned by someone, or the dark side gets them. I've learned that, first of all, and, Tom Brady's just broken up with Giselle, so even the quarterback doesn't get the model. So, that whole system doesn't really exist. So you are left with yourself in another structure. So that's certainly something that I've noticed. One other awareness was be very careful when you think something is an advantage. Whoever would have thought that a trophy property for a boutique gym in a downtown area would be a disadvantage? Who would think owning property would be a disadvantage? If then you can't work from it and therefore you're held with the rent but no way to pay it off. So there's just been some things around, it's that whole good news, bad news, who knows thing. So there's definitely that. And then probably some of the lessons that sort of sit with me as I go through life is I'm personally really proud that the question that drives me, I've been able to curb that a little bit to not be so harsh on me. So are you good enough? Like that was what we've all got a question, right? Mine was that. And you used to, you're running, you don't know what from, and your ambition, and you're trying to climb some ladder that doesn't exist and no one gives a shit, and you're kind of being a bit abrasive through that whole experience. And then just going, you know what? At any moment in time, I'm giving my best. And tomorrow I'll give a little bit more, and it might just be 1%. I'll gently review the day, and then I will quietly get on with tomorrow, trying to go about that better. Like, even though the last 3 years have been a big pile of shit, I mean, let's just call it what it is. I've never been happier. It's really weird, even if there's a struggle. So you're kind of going through this life. I'm pretty happy if 3 out of the 5 of our family are doing well. You've just always got to play the odds. I definitely feel it when we tip down to 3 under and 2 over. And that's life, right? You very rarely are all 5 of you going to be on all cylinders, absolutely charging to the moon. Or Mars now, I should say Mars. So, yeah, just some things that I'm sitting with right now. And then just the number one thing that I love, and you and I talked about this, Sash, is I just love having the feeling of being resolved. Like in any moment, the people that I love know it. I'm on some kind of adventure and I'm enjoying that. And my affairs are in order. So if time's up, I'm not going to, leave too heavy a print on the earth, and people are going to be okay. And then just that way, I'm just finding I can show up and try and be helpful for whatever the situation is that I'm in. And I love that. That's why I'm so happy now, I think. Maybe it just comes with age. I don't know. Or you just go to hell and back. Maybe I'm dead. I don't know.
You're dead, and this is the Matrix.
Mr. Anderson.
Thank you so much. I love that encapsulation of that being resolved, of knowing that all is well. I'm giving my best. Not every day is perfect. And the way you describe that is phenomenal. I want to thank you so much for giving us your time and giving our listeners the time. Where can they find you? Where can they cop or follow? Give us that information.
Yeah, so LinkedIn, just being in search, LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time these days. I have an Instagram account. It's not the hacked, it's the other one because I got hacked. I'm still trying to get the other one back. So Emma Barry _ GFA, so Global Fitness Authority. So I'm on Insta and LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's the easiest because you just have to punch in my name there. And then just a little shout out. So I've just re-recorded my book. So if anyone's interested in boutique or gym or anything like that, I'm just popping that up on Audible, iTunes and Amazon today. So that'll take a couple of weeks. So a lot of people are asking, we only learn by listening now. So, hence the podcast. So please record it. So I did that on New Year's Eve. So that was my New Year's Eve. Very exciting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you. I would love everybody to get more. We deserve more of Emma Barry in our lives. I'm part of your Badass Bullets community. That's something people can sign up for too. We meet once a month and hang out and learn from some cool people. So check that out as well. Thank you for all you have done to pioneer for women, to show us what's possible, to show men what's possible as well. And we wish every good thing to you and your family.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Ish. Thanks, Sash.